positive vibes only kind of guy, and
Yeah.
you're kind of bringing in negative vibes right now. So I'm gonna hang up this call.
This day is work day, and the kind of aura that you're bringing along to the school is just not conducive to where I'm trying to be at right now. I'm sorry. May Jesus be with you. Have a nice day.
My thoughts and prayers are with you, but not my money.
Listen up. You didn't lose your money. Now, you have your... Technically, you kind of lost your money.
Okay, here it is. We are back, the 4Bs, bringing you once again the world's most bullish podcast. This is Mr. All In, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Never Look, aka the Excellence of Execution. And she's here, but she's never here, and she's definitely going to disappear with the price as it is right now. Mrs. No Show, where are you?
Oh no, we just dipped below 21k again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a time to drown your sorrows and drink Starbucks, right? This is not good. You are not, this is not a test. That is saying 20 right now. I mean, ever since we started the pod, we've just gone down and down and down. So, we could be the factor of why Bitcoin's dead right now. The 4Bs.
We did have a high, didn't we? We had the second peak, which was in the midst of us doing the pod.
November. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So it's not always. But
yeah,
in fairness, I have been looking at the trends over the halvings, and there's usually a single peak and then it tails off in the winter. And then you see a rise towards the end of that cycle before it hits a halving, then everyone goes mad within about a year of a halving. So it's not out of sync, but we did have two peaks, which was a little bit weird.
Yeah, well, I think this cycle ultimately it's blown all the models apart. Like we were never supposed to go below the previous cycle's high, which was 20k, and we went down to 19, 18k. So that was one of the truths in Bitcoin. Like if you hold for 4 years, you're guaranteed to be up.
Yeah,
we can no longer say that. There's people that brought in 2017 at the top that saw a whole high and it was never meant to come back down. It did. It went back down below their buy price. Never happened before.
But it was only for a bit. And then also, couldn't you say that external factors came into play with Celsius?
Sure, there's always an excuse, but the thing is that the models are the models, and they say certain things can and can't happen. Once they're invalidated, then everything that model says really you have to take with a grain of salt. Because the thing is, it never did, right? Before, like when you say external factors, right? What happened in March 2020? Bitcoin was at 6k. We went down to 2.5k. That was because of a global lockdown. That is probably one of the biggest black swans ever. That should have taken us below 1,000, really, because that would have been the previous cycle's high. And that one, probably you could have said black swan. But right now, has there been a black swan this year, really? Like, I know inflation's going crazy. I know there's been some shitcoin exchanges blow up. That shouldn't have taken us down below the previous cycle high. That isn't a global lockdown or anything like that. That's just kind of in our space. And it's mainly should just send shitcoins to zero, but it's hurt Bitcoin as well and hurt it so much that, I think that the theory of like almost Bitcoin was a stable coin, I think it was for about 6 months. We're between like 35 and 45k for like 6-9 months. Just we're getting these 10% up and downs, but they were just in a range, weren't they? It was just not moving.
We were just tracking and trending right, weren't we?
Yeah, and we had the discussion on this podcast where it was like, is this it? Is this kind of the super cycle in a way where Bitcoin is now just stabilized? It's going to go up and down by 10%, but just keep ticking on up. We're never going to get big 10x gains in a single kind of 6-month period. It's just going to be 5 or 10% up. When you zoom out over 2 years, it's like, oh shit, we 10x. But no one's going to realize that the boom and bust is going to basically calm down and start becoming the super cycle. And yeah, I think it's now confirmed that is not the case whatsoever. We're down like 83%.
I do wonder whether, you know, now is the time which a country would go, actually will go on Bitcoin standard, because this is when it's seen as cheap, because we've had many months when it's been at all-time highs and everyone's like, oh, it's too expensive. Whereas now we're down. Surely this is where, you know, like your Nambia, whoever else was talking to Bukalele are going, is this the time?
I think everyone likes, it's like the meme though, right? There's a massive queue at the table for Bitcoin at 60K. And then you've got the table at 20K here, it's empty. No one wants Bitcoin at 20K, whereas everyone wanted Bitcoin at 60K. So I think it takes a lot of high conviction to make your buy at one of the cycle lows. It tends to be the hardcore Bitcoiners buy this bottom. And then once we start to tick back up, that is when I think we'll get momentum, and then some companies and countries might come out the woodwork. It'd be very brave of anyone to come out right now. You get instantly laughed at. El Salvador got laughed at, and the price we're in the middle of a bull market, and they look geniuses. Yeah. Now they're getting laughed at for being down. I think it'd be very tough for a country to come out and go, yeah, we're going on to Bitcoin. Everyone would be like, didn't that die? Isn't that 75% down in the last year? And it is. So that's going to be a tough thing to sell politically, I think.
Yeah, definitely. No one wants to catch that falling knife, right? But the plans that are in place, because we previously talked about it, where Bukalele held that conference, and there was like either 42 or 44 different countries. I think the red tape that the countries have to go through, because maybe some of them naturally were a lot bigger than El Salvador, it would take time, and then maybe those plans have been thwarted right now with the price drop. But I still think, as and when the time's right, one of them will just simply press the trigger.
Yeah. Hopefully it's been in the works for the last year or so, and it will just happen to come out. And they started all the good work during the bull market. And even though it's the bear market, they're still brave enough just to push ahead.
Correct.
Hopefully that's the case. And then they'll look geniuses, because they'll be buying the market bottom. Probably.
This is ultimately what would cause a bit more stability around Bitcoin, wouldn't it? Where we get a number of countries adopting.
Yeah, well, we need people of high conviction. We need more Bukaleles and Sailors. You know, they've both bought huge quantities of Bitcoin, and their conviction is solid. But we've seen a lot of institutional investors come in and VCs come in, and they're buying Bitcoin for gains. So the second they see kind of macro trouble and a macro recession, they take a haircut on all their assets, including Bitcoin. And I think that's why we've seen it. So I think I think it's the VCs and the huge institutional investors that have come in and bought billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. I think in reality, if we could trace all this stuff back, I think they are the big sellers. And I think in reality, like we see things like Celsius going bust. There's another one called Pebble or something went bust this week. In reality, they're almost like the news, but they haven't caused any selling yet. Like Celsius haven't caused any selling because they've locked up all their coins. Like they've been liquidated in the back end, but like the trouble hasn't even come out yet. Eventually, they're going to have to liquidate all the Bitcoin they've got and try and refund people in some shape or form. They haven't even done that yet. And they have 38 billion worth of assets under management. They probably don't have anywhere near that much Bitcoin. They probably only have 10 billion of assets, if I had to guess. So they're probably, 20 billion in the hole. But yeah, I don't know. I do think it's this cycle has been a lot of, instead of like retail coming in, I think we've had a lot of big investors coming in. And I think they've still got paper hands, and then they've had their first 20-30% correction, and they've shit it, and they've run off thinking, "Oh, recession's happening. Let's get into cash." They'll probably come back, but hopefully they pay the price. They're selling their Bitcoin at 20-30K now. By the time they have the confidence can come back in, hopefully we're well over 100K, and they learn their lesson and get a third of the amount of Bitcoin that they had before.
Yeah. You're absolutely right on the Celsius piece. It was more of a comment as opposed to an article, so I didn't include it in. But I'm a subscriber. I think you are, Dr. Evil 10%, to Kathy Wood's ARK Invest, and they came out with this article in terms of the unwinding of the Terra ecosystem and the potential collapse of Celsius. And as you say, ultimately, this thing could take years within order for people to get their Bitcoin back as and once it's unraveled. And so I think the full ramifications, as it says here, totally remain unclear. So this is going to put a lot of people off from potentially buying into the market, but it doesn't change the fundamentals of what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin does. And for the non-educated, it's not going to necessarily be processed correctly in that way. And of course, naturally, the way that the media will spin this as well. In our chat, whilst we've been chatting as well, you may have seen that I just sent in a link as well in terms of Case Bitcoin, in terms of the charts. So I don't know if it's a meme, but essentially right now we are 69% down from Bitcoin's all-time high.
No, just a shame we're not at 420 then.
Yeah.
So 69 down. Yeah, because we've come up a little bit. We were in the 70s before. And the last cycle, the scary thing is the last cycle bottomed at 83. So I think if I was to guess, I would guess that this is
there's more to go.
Yeah, because the bottom, like once we went through 20K, everyone was predicting like further, like down to 5 or 10K. So then obviously we pump up. So everyone's wrong there. And then once everyone starts to get bullish, I think we do another nice big dump. And it needs to be a flash dump, right? So we're at 6K for ages and everyone was hurting at 6K. And everyone thought that was the bottom. Nah, like we flash crashed in March 2020 down to 2.5. And then in the next 3 months went pretty much straight to 50K. So we need to liquidate the last couple of people that were still holding on, that were still weak hands. And I just feel that we've still got a little bit of that. We went through that 20K barrier, but then we pretty much came back up. I'm like, that wasn't enough pain. I think we need more. There's some people secretly still think that it's up only from here. And I go, well, whilst we still got some believers, we're going back down to 10. Have another 50% haircut, have everyone completely go, fuck, Bitcoin might be over 10K. What the fuck? And that will be then, that's the bottom.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, it's got to be a long, cold, hard winter for people to really suffer, because this is nothing really. It's been a week, if that. So the cold winter of 2018, that was long, that was painful. And I think the new hands that have come into the party, you need to feel that, and then they'll understand it.
Yeah, well, it's been about 8 months. I mean, November was the top, and then it's been down only since then.
Yeah.
So that has been pretty painful for a lot of people. But yeah, I still think we're probably halfway. If I was, and sometimes you just need to track sideways at a really shitty price, because we track sideways at 6K for ages, and everyone's like, "What the fuck is this what it is?" And like, I think when boredom sets in, and just like everyone's so far down, and you just get so bored, and then you just have another dump just to. The people that were still holding on, going, it's okay, it's going to go back up in a minute. We dump again. They just go, fuck it, I'm out. And then it's up only from there. And it's...
The wife's been saying, so I hear Bitcoin's down. How much are you down? I was just like, I don't know, I haven't looked.
The trick always is, if you denominate your wealth in Bitcoin, you're not down at all.
I should have said that. I should have said I'm not down because I haven't sold any.
Yeah, one Bitcoin is worth 1 Bitcoin, and I still have my Bitcoin. I didn't lose it.
I think it's still the principles. When the long hard winter sets in, it's thinking, why have I invested in Bitcoin? Why am I doing this? And I think you have got to sit back and think, what is a better store of wealth? What is not so much wealth actually, because I think wealth is everyone goes to gold. and thinking about, Scrooge McDuck, but think about what is a better form of money. What is a better way of trading?
Yeah.
I've started to expand my horizons in terms of that, not just from a financial perspective, but I'm looking more at, every day the technology is getting better and better. We're building the rails for the Lightning Network. The exchanges are there still, there's more and more miners that are coming along. People are educating themselves better. And fundamentally, again, nothing's changed in terms of Bitcoin. So it's just the start. It's just the beginning for what needs to happen. Customer service is still shit in all of the exchanges. That needs to change. So it's all happy days.
Yeah, and then is on the other side of the coin, who we're competing against. Have they cleaned up their act and are more efficient now, which is why we're going down? No, the governments are just as reckless, just as nuts. We're still starting silly wars. We're still funding healthcare that we don't need. Inflation is still through the roof. They're still lying about it comically. Every other day, there's another representative for Biden that's getting up and lying about inflation. And they're the current sound money, right? They are the current money of the globe, which is the dollar. And they're lying and they're printing it at record rates. So all that's happening really is it's playing out exactly as Bitcoin has predicted. And we knew it wasn't going to be straight up. We knew it's up and down all over the place. People get excited in every cycle. We pump too high, then we dump too low. But fundamentally, the principles and the code behind Bitcoin remain solid. And
what's the Christine Lagarde thing? What will you do about inflation? Was it? We will see.
In due course, I think she said. Or something.
In due course, that was it. In due course.
And then just laugh.
In due course.
Oh man! Yeah.
Is anyone seen if Granddaddy Biden is up off the floor from his little cycle fall? Talking of cycles, I mean, he could still be there right now, and we wouldn't know.
To be fair, I was actually impressed he was even on a bike. He can barely walk. I'm like,
yeah,
which idiot put Biden on a bike?
I think they just pushed him off. It's like, when you're teaching your kids how to cycle, you put them on the bike and you get them moving, and then they've got a bit of confidence, so you let go. I think that's what happened. Is someone let go, so he could go across the shot thinking, oh yeah, someone will catch him on the other side of a camera shot, but he didn't make it through the camera shot. We also saw that video this week. I don't know from how long ago it was, but it's the most random attempt to talk. It was just various words in a certain time frame which didn't connect together. That was unbelievable. It wasn't stuttering. There was no stuttering there. It was just random words.
Weirdly, that's an old clip from when he was running for president. Like he did that speech on stage. Then apparently,
oh my word!
Apparently, then got a record number of votes, even more than Trump and Obama, to get the presidency. Of course, every vote was legit, and they weren't all dead people that voted for him. But yeah, so that's the good thing, right? That's always the good thing. Like if you see Bitcoin going down, and then you don't see really anything that particularly bad happening in Bitcoin, and you also see governments cleaning their act up, and actually competent leaders saying things that you believe in, and going, oh yeah, the price has increased. That's because we printed too much money. The way we're going to resolve that is by stopping to print some money and cut some essential resources, cutting some of our staff. I'd shit myself then as a Bitcoiner. I'm like, oh right, the asset I've got here is betting on that failing. And I think they're too corrupt to turn around. Yeah. If I started to see a U-turn, I'd start to get worried and go, maybe Bitcoin really hasn't got a use case. But they're not saying any of those things. If anything, they're blaming the poor people, going, eat bugs, not steak. Like, just absolute
Your
bullshit.
cow farts lots. And it's just like, my God. There's less cows in the USA now than there were in the 60s. Yeah, they're coming out with this.
Well, yeah, if governments gave themselves an austerity pill, then yeah, that's when we definitely would need to be, scared of what's going to be going
I think I'd be most worried if they started using a gold standard. Whilst it's not ideal, because I do doubt the production, which they claim of 2% per year.
Well, it doubled last week, didn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it doubled last week, and then also all these mining companies have this mass amount of reserves of gold, which seems to be increasing alongside the 2%. So it's not 2%, is it?
I don't believe a gold standard at all. It's just one of them where I just don't think they'd ever do it. It's just one of them. They'd virtue signal to it. It's like what they're doing with CBDCs. They try and pull the wool over your eyes and go, yeah, we're going to a gold standard. Oh, right. That means you're going to match the dollars 1-to-1 with gold. Well, I don't think there's even enough gold in the world anyway. So they'd have to do a great reset thing to go, we need to balance out how much gold we have to how much fucking money we need. It's like got so far ahead of the supply of gold. It's just like not even.
But even if it was, say, $10,000 to one piece of gold or whatever, it's at least there's a standard, and it caps it to 2% increases per year, apparently.
But then
at least,
yeah, so I don't know. We just don't know how much gold there is.
It's flawed. It is flawed, and I do agree. I'm just saying that if that actually came in, that would worry me.
Yeah,
but when there's no standard, no capping, it's it needs replacing.
Yeah,
you've also got to remember what's flawed is the fact that fiat is flawed, and it's just a Ponzi scheme anyway. Fiat is programmed to go to zero, so no matter what, they could clean up their act with regards to spending less, cutting budgets, taking out corrupt politicians, but ultimately it still wouldn't change the fact that that money is going to zero.
This sounds like right-wing talk. Get back in your pod and eat your bugs.
I bet you're
definitely getting a strike.
Yeah, and a transphobe.
Yeah.
Fucking Nazi.
Yeah, that is the end of the 4Bs. It was nice knowing the audience, and yeah, good night all. Should we hit the first story?
Yeah, why not? It all leads in from what we've been talking about, specifically around price.
Absolutely.
Which is quite a weird thing around MicroStrategy, which is kind of nuts, because obviously MicroStrategy have done super well on their share price since they've been holding Bitcoin. But then, as we always know, whenever you're one step away from Bitcoin, which is why shitcoins try and do it, and any other type of asset, sometimes you can outperform Bitcoin as a kind of customary asset, just because sometimes the liquidity is not the same. It's not nowhere near as big, so it's easier to pump something smaller than it is something as big as Bitcoin. But then when Bitcoin comes down, they crash harder too. So that's what's happened to the MicroStrategy price. And then Samson Moe tweeted the other day that their market cap at the time of he wrote this, which was June 17th, so it's about 3 or 4 days ago, their market cap was 1.8 billion, but their Bitcoin holdings were 2.6 billion. So literally the company is now worth less than just their Bitcoin. And obviously they have a company that makes hundreds of millions in profit a year. So obviously now the market, this is, and if anything, this is a bullish signal, because that is a very obviously an overcorrection for MicroStrategy share price. They are clearly worth more than that. If they liquidated all their assets tomorrow, they are worth probably double what their current share price values them at. So it's probably a good time to buy MicroStrategy, but what it could also then represent is probably a good time to buy Bitcoin as well, because Bitcoin is oversold, just as MicroStrategy share price is clearly oversold. The market is overreacted, probably overreacted before and pumped it too high, probably almost definitely did pump it too high. So it's come down, but now it's pumped it too low. So they should probably be at least double this shit, whatever share price they're at, they should be double it just to be at a fair market value. Correct. And now it comes to, well, what is their future earnings and all that type of stuff. But people are obviously bearish on their Bitcoin allocation and thinks it's going to sink the company, which is why their share price is now so far down.
Been trading well over 20 years, hasn't it, in terms of MicroStrategy, because he's been the CEO for over 20 years. So they know a thing or two in terms of what they're doing. In terms of that share price, clearly it's undervalued right now.
Yeah, I did see another tweet that sale is down, I think 1.6 billion on his buy. But I think they've bought 4 billion in Bitcoin, and I think at the time their valuation of that Bitcoin was 2.4 billion, which is kind of crazy.
That's crazy.
He was pretty much double. I think his 4 billion was up at about 8, and he was looking like a genius. But that 4 billion in profit got eroded, and now he's 1.6 in the hole. That's serious cash, right? And obviously we've been on here, and I've always been critical of Saylor on one point, which was taking debt on to buy Bitcoin. You go, can you ride out a harsh winter with leverage? If you've just used your available income and you don't owe anyone something, you're in control of that asset. If you want to buy it or sell it, and you can if you want. But if you take out debt, there's a schedule you've got to pay. And if the price is down, it's going to hurt because you probably loaned, let's say you loan 100 grand and the Bitcoin valuation now could be down at 30 grand. You still owe 100. You got to pay that back. And it probably means you're going to have to liquidate the 30 grand of Bitcoin you had, plus another 70 grand of Bitcoin that you didn't want to sell. So it's probably another like good message to go, don't do what Saylor does, right? The billionaire land is billionaire land. He will be fine. MicroStrategy will be fine. But the average pleb out there, they're probably hurting if they took some of his advice and started remortgaging, selling cars. I saw people selling their cars at 69K, going, I don't need 2 cars. The wife's got one, I've got one. Selling it for 10 grand and buying another 10 grand of Bitcoin at 69K because everyone was guaranteed it going to 100. And then we were obviously down at 18 a couple of days ago. And you go, yeah, I bet you wish you had that car now because the sats you've got didn't really pay off. So just don't go too far with it. Just buy sensibly, but don't take debt and don't sell things you need.
And this should be a lesson to anyone. If Mr. All In is telling people don't go all in.
Yeah, don't use leverage. It's against the principles.
Go up to 100%. Don't go past 100.
Okay, yeah.
But it is kind of like the principles of Bitcoin, isn't it? It's like, don't get yourself in debt. Actually work and build a life based around what you can bring and not just in a revolving circle of debt.
Yeah, it was greed. In reality, when you really look at it, it's greed. People are just a little bit greedy. Especially in the bull market, like everyone gets excited, start liquidating everything to get their sats. But in reality, I always say, like, you got to be thinking 5-10 year with any Bitcoin buy. And so if you're going to need that money in 5 to 10 years, that probably isn't investable cash. That's cash you need to live. So probably keep that on hand, because who knows where Bitcoin's price is going. And if you can't handle a 70 to 80% drawdown, then you're too far in. You've got, people have lives. And that's the thing, like Bitcoin should be like a saving asset. It should be sound money. It's kind of the money that grandma used to put under the mattress, but she didn't put all her money under the mattress. Like, she still spent a lot of money. She lived her life, but then she had a nice nest egg there. So when she retired, she had money and she had enough money to hand down as an inheritance. That's kind of like what we should be seeing Bitcoin as right now. So you don't need to go 150% all in on that asset because you're not retired yet. Yeah, you're still in the game. You still need to spend. So you can't have an asset you don't ever want to spend because you're going to have to sell it probably for less than you bought it for. So it's kind of counting against you now.
Yeah. Grandma was wise, naturally.
Exactly. That's where we came from.
Yeah. I think as well, and I may have said it on the last week's pod or the week before, sorry, is that in this day and age, we can actually now see, they used to talk about look above because people were literally falling from the sky, in terms of the suicides, because people are being leveraged. But with social media, we can see this is going to hurt people, like those people that have got super leverage. They're going to find, or some of them will take the easy way out. And again, not like Saylor that can handle a 1.6 billion debt and still live a happy life regardless. But others, the average pleb, the average normie, not going to be able to do it. So don't do it.
One good thing about all this, anyways, all the shit coins are dying.
Yeah.
They've completely combusted. Everyone is completely losing their minds. And I was listening to this shitcoin podcast actually. I quite like Kobe. Kobe's a big Twitter guy, got like 500,000 followers or something. He's British as well. And but yeah, he got into Bitcoin 2011, 2012, like super early, super rich. But he's a massive shitcoiner now. But then I listened to his latest podcast, which was just it was one that was just like blood all over the kind of thumbnail. It's like complete capitulation. And I was listening to him talk, and he pretty much just went, pretty much strongly hinted that he was going to leave the space because crypto is kind of just a big scam. Bitcoin is exactly what he thought it was originally, which is it's going to be sound money. He's skeptical that it's ever going to take over, but it's got its place as like a global currency. So and he's kind of made his mark now by downplaying that part and going, it's not that important. Crypto's better. And now he's been proven completely wrong that crypto is not better. It's completely imploded, did not add any value over the last 4 years. All this DeFi, metaverse, all the NFTs, they were all just pump and dumps. Every single one was just a scam. Not a single platform has delivered anything of value other than pumping a token price up, making some people some money, and now all that profit has disappeared. It's literally just like the last 4 years was basically for nothing. And you could see him saying that and they were going, what are you going to do if you're not going to do this? He went, I might just like buy a bit of land and just build a shed or something. And ironically, like his co-host is this like older guy, he's a bit of a dad, and they take the piss out of him for looking after his kids and just like potting around in the garden. And it's a case of, you've gone full cycle, like probably went to billionaire mode, came back down to now probably still worth 100 million or something. And what you want to do with your life, because you're so disillusioned with the space you dedicated your life to, you now just want to live the dad life and build a shed. And I mean, that's just like, it showed to me just when you're just investing in stuff purely for gains, when the gains go, you just got nothing to stay for. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's like, this is self-sovereignty. This is separating money from state. We're not going fucking anywhere. We don't care.
Do you think it might be a bit further down the cycle? So you've got your, we talked about getting into the crypto space, buy a bit of Bitcoin, buy a bit of shitcoin, and then then realize that shitcoins are useless to become a Bitcoin maxi. Is it that when someone gets in at a certain point, they become so rich that they're just kind of going, oh, let's make some money on some shit coins because I'm so rich? Do you think it might be part of a life cycle of a Bitcoiner as such, and then go back into Bitcoin and go, actually, I just want this simple life. I don't want to deal with this shit coin because it is a pile of crap.
Yeah,
we have seen a lot of Bitcoiners. So Kobe and who's a guy who's done a lot of educational stuff. Great name.
Antonius.
Andreas. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's been a few notables who are pure Bitcoin maxis who have gone into shit coins.
Yeah, and I think the problem with them is that once they do that, because they're so public, they can't now say they were wrong. They can't admit it and go, I'm a Bitcoin maxi now. So I think they just leave. But the problem is, the good thing is that most plebs, I think, go through that cycle and then end up Bitcoin maxi and then pop up their heads and suddenly start chatting Bitcoin. And we don't know that they shitcoined so hard before. So they can kind of just leave that behind, delete a couple of tweets and appear as a Bitcoin maxi. If you've got a massive following like Andreas and Kobe, I think it's just too embarrassing to come back into Bitcoin and go, guys, I was wrong for like 7 years. Called all maxis toxic.
It sounds like Kobe is. So
weirdly, I don't think he knew he was doing it, but that is kind of what he did. And but he doesn't want to be a Bitcoin maxi. He's like, I'm never going to be that. I think he'd rather leave the space. I can guarantee you'll leave the space with hardly any shit coins and a shit ton of Bitcoin. So,
of course.
What about
there was Breedlove, wasn't there as well, if we remember rightly?
Oh yeah. He's still a Bitcoin maxi. That was a classic. Just he wanted more sats, so he was willing to shill that shit coin on his followers.
Okay, so he saw the light. He's back, is he?
Yeah. Well, yeah. He never really left. It was just a dirty move because the problem was, you know, he's obviously an influential Bitcoin maxi. Still said he was throughout the whole thing. Yet he shilled a shit coin, and by doing that, pumped the price, dumped some of it, made a bit of profit, and everyone was like, "That's dirty. That's not the Bitcoin way. We don't make a quick buck. You're well respected in Bitcoin. Like, do legitimate Bitcoin gigs and get paid for it. It's absolutely fine, but don't shill a shitcoin on your followers and then pretend." Like, he then pretended it was an accident. He didn't mean to do it. He was just no, mate. This be honest now. You were trying to make a quick buck, and I think he did. I think he made like 70 grand. And you go, all right, well, that's your reputation gone for 70 grand. I hope it was worth it.
What about Andreas? Is he still a shitcoiner?
Yeah, last I heard, he was still massively into all that DeFi bollocks.
I've been following Andreas because I just spent quite a bit on the Lightning Network book that he put together with somebody else, and he's also put together another book which is Mastering Ethereum, as well as his original Mastering Bitcoin book.
It's got all flies on the front cover.
Yeah, that's the one.
Because of
Mastering Ethereum. So what is it, like
Yes.
mastering dick pics?
Yeah. Powering.
Yeah,
You open the
who
book,
knows?
there's the shit in there, and that explains the flies on the front cover.
Yeah.
He says they're bees, but they're flies.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, he's one of those people that, from a teacher perspective, he can make very complex things very simple for the average layperson to understand. But yeah, I'll do a little bit more research to see if he is still shitcoining.
Yeah, I'll never know. He
because-
blocked me years ago. Ever since he turned, he blocked me. Which is sad because he is literally he's the guy that orange pilled me. It was his
Yeah.
videos, really poorly produced, crappy, but he is so eloquent, so good at talking.
Yes, exactly.
And his original Bitcoin videos are still some of the best. And they orange pilled me. He was the one that made it click for me. And
Yeah.
it was so sad that about 2 or 3 years into my journey, he turned shitcoiner. I called him out for it and he blocked me. I'm like, oh well, got blocked by one of my heroes, but he's not a hero of mine anymore. He went off into shitcoin land for a quick buck. So go fuck yourself. But no.
So it's like Saifedean starting shitcoining for us.
Yeah, or a sailor. Yeah, one of those two big boys.
That would hurt.
It really would. Yeah, yeah. And Thomas, it's at times like this where sometimes the big influencers, you realize they weren't as wealthy as they said they were. They were shitcoining. They might have been a bit leveraged. They might have a bit of debt on, and they sell their reputation for a quick buck by putting their name on a shitcoin. It wouldn't surprise me. About now, one of the probably top 10 guys in Bitcoin right now, one of them will probably shill a shitcoin in the next 12 months, and we'll be amazed that they did it, and they'll be gone forever. But desperate times, desperate measures.
You're right. It's like as Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes in, you find out who's naked. And so ultimately we might find out who was over leveraged.
But then we're talking about shitcoins. I really like Lynn's latest tweet thread that we link to in the description.
Yeah.
Which is just really good because weirdly, this is Kobe's tweet that she is quote tweeted. So her whole thread centers around one of Kobe's tweets, which essentially is around Solana, where Solana's going, oh yeah, we're the first ever fucking decentralized platform. It's a competitor to Ethereum. But then their whole scam is, or their whole problem they've got, some whale has managed to accumulate an absolute shit ton of this Solana coin. So they're positioning a new governance measure to go, we want to steal all that person's coins because we're scared they're gonna dump it and ruin the price of Solana forever. So they passed this random governance vote, but then Solana, as the kind of founder of the coin, just voted 1 million times for yes. And then there was like 4,000 no's. So it passed, but they were all the yes votes. So they've basically voted to take a load of coins off a person that has legitimately got hold of all these Solana coins, which clearly then now he controls the network. He can pump or dump whatever he wants to do. So they're just going, we're going to take the coins off him. And so Lynn's just kind of gone. And even Kobe, I think this is again one of his bits where he's just cracked and gone, this DeFi stuff is a load of bollocks. There's nothing decentralized about it. It's completely centralized around the owners of the coin. And Lynn just has a great tweet thread really, which goes, Bitcoin's different to this because it is decentralized. She doesn't normally invest in things like Bitcoin. She likes to see a profit and loss. She likes to see revenue. She likes to see profit. They're the things that she typically invests in. But Bitcoin is different because it doesn't have profit and loss. It is just an asset that goes up and down based on people buying and selling it. It's basically what the markets say it's worth, but it has value for all these kind of key reasons based on its security, its scarcity, and being able to transmit to anyone in the world. And it's just a great tweet thread, I think, from someone that is an institutional investor. Typically, Bitcoin wouldn't match up to their buying criteria. It doesn't have what a good company should have, but she still sees value in it for a whole host of different reasons, which is why pretty much all Bitcoiners hold Bitcoin. But it's great to be kind of a very like educated investor type view as to why she's a Bitcoiner and not a shitcoiner.
Yeah, Lynn's, everything that she pretty much says is spot on. Again, very articulate with the way that she puts things, and very considered and measured in terms of her thought process as well, which she transparently tells people as well. She's open with the ways that what she looks at in terms of the macroeconomics of the world. So I am a fan of anything that she typically puts out, or any interviews that she's on.
Yeah, this is something for like, the financial directors out there, the accountants, people that think they know they're investing. Like sometimes we struggle like to convert them completely. This is the type of thread that I would bookmark and send to them and go, look, this person thinks like you. They think like an institutional investor, but they've come to a different conclusion to you. Read through this one thread. It's only like 10 tweets long. This is why she thinks Bitcoin is different than crypto. It's a completely different asset. Crypto is scams. Bitcoin is sound money. But why Bitcoin also measured up to a very profitable company, but also can return just as good returns as an Amazon or a Google. And it could be useful to bookmark and just send to that type of like quite educated person that sometimes it's even harder to break down, because they just go, look, Bitcoin doesn't have any profit and loss, doesn't have any profit. I don't know how to value this thing. It's impossible to value. It could be worth $1 million today. It could be worth $10 tomorrow. How do I know? And you go, well, there's a whole host of reasons why. And here's a load of them from someone that thinks like you, and someone that was a Bitcoin denier until I think Lynn came in, I think in 2020, along with Giga Chad. So she's very late to the game, really. She could easily have gone, I'm late. Bitcoin's already at 50K. No, but she came in.
And also a big gold bug previously to this as well. So she's been turned.
Yeah. It's another person actually that probably admitted she was wrong. I'm sure she looked at Bitcoin plenty of times and went, nah, not for me. And then years later went, I was wrong. Bitcoin is for me. And I'm going to take the hit and buy it for 10, 20, 30 times the price that I could have if I hadn't said it was a scam 5 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, so the next story again takes us in quite nicely, because Nick Bhatia, a financial analyst, I guess one of my heroes in the space. Please, Nick, stay true to what you're continuing to do. He only, and I've heard this out of his own mouth, looks at Bitcoin. He isn't necessarily a fan of any other shitcoins, as we know right now. And he's just launched his new YouTube channel. As I've just updated the notes, he's done his first video on the Lightning Network, and it was interesting to see the way that he teaches it, and teaches in general, to be in fact as well, which was kind of an insight as a lecturer, that if I was sat in the lecture hall, how would I understand, and the analogies that he uses. But ultimately, he was a gold bug and is now in this space, given up work previously as an analyst on Wall Street to again just concentrate on Bitcoin. But he's also teaching people that are interested in Bitcoin at USC, which I think is great, because we've spoken many a time on the podcast that sound money or any financial principles and financial education isn't really taught in schools. You have to go out and you have to go and learn this and find this out and discover it for yourself. And the only way that it's going to change is if it's put into the education system, and it's got to start somewhere. So salute to Nick Bhatia, and Any comments?
On part of this, he did talk about why other shit coins are irrelevant, like Ethereum. So he said, if Bitcoin goes below the previous all-time high from the last cycle, we have to look at it. This is after he's slating Ethereum for doing so.
Oops.
And I was like, oop, this didn't age well.
It didn't age well at all. I think he did say we have to look at the data. So, you know, he's very much
it was some
analyst.
interesting stuff he talked about in there. Because I think the education bit would be great. Imagine starting university and having him as a lecturer and actually learning the fundamentals about what our monetary system is and scaling up to something like Bitcoin, because it's something which we've learned much later in life about how broken money is and what an illusion actually is. And he talked, you know, about Argentina as well, one of our favorite mentions. So we got everyone who's kind of like, you know, kind of going, oh yeah, it's going to happen. He says it's not going to happen in the next couple of years, but in Argentina, they're going to Bitcoin to escape a currency collapse.
Yeah, I think it's, when I listened, I was surprised he was a university lecturer. I go, because it's always just, it's a bit of a waste of time, in my opinion, when you're just teaching a class of, say, 30 to 50 kids. And quite often these things aren't recorded. They're just one moment in time. And you have to just repeat yourself over and over again, over and over. Whereas he's already a kind of personality. He's already written a book, for example. So straight away, a book is much better than a lecture, because a book can be read by millions of people. You write very concise kind of, it's probably like a book is a little bit like a syllabus, and you put it down and then everyone that wants it can get it, not just the 30 people that are in that room. Then what's even better, if you put your lectures on YouTube, which is obviously now what he's doing, and you go, now there's not just 30 to 50 people in the room, there can be millions, the whole world can see it, and they don't have to be there at that exact time. We can see these lectures for decades in the future. So it's evergreen content as opposed to one use, one time. And to a load of kids, I hate to say it, but at university, this is probably they didn't go to university to study Bitcoin. They've gone in to study economics. So I'd imagine he's going to be doing one of the modules, and then there's going to be another 7 lecturers on the other side, all teaching kind of Keynes economics, probably completely undoing his work. And they're just going to have their mind blown going, what the fuck? Like, is Austrian economics correct or Keynes economics? And it's just, what the fuck's going on? So yeah, I don't know. I think out of the 2 things he announced, the YouTube channel and the being a lecturer, I'm much more excited about the YouTube one, because we need more people like him just doing nice, honest, well-researched, kind of competent education and getting it out there. As opposed to, I think he really, the reason why he's a university lecturer, I think his dad, he said he was a lecturer, or no, his dad and granddad, I think, went to that university, and he went to the university. Now, for him to go back and be a lecturer there is such kind of a kudos thing for his family. And you go, okay, fine. Like, you're doing that as a personal kind of a badge of honor, that you're now a lecturer at the university that has been held in such high esteem that you're in your family. Just graduating from there was seen as the ultimate achievement. But now you're actually a lecturer there. You've gone up another level. So I say fair play. But if I was to give him any advice, I go, like, you've done it. Do a year, do 2 years maybe, then quit and focus 100% on the YouTube channel. You're going to help so many more kids doing a really good, well-researched, well-produced, well-funded YouTube channel than you will ever do as a lecturer. Half those kids walk in hungover and don't want to be there. So whereas YouTube, people click that link because they want to freaking click your link. They weren't paid to be there. They don't have an exam to sit. They're clicking play because they want to learn about Bitcoin. So
I do wonder if the Bitcoin lessons that he will be teaching are an optional lesson as well, because I think maybe in the video, or I heard him say this somewhere else, is that some kids will actually ask further questions over and above, obviously, what he's teaching. So naturally, if it was the 3 of us that were there, we'd be like, oh, hold on, let's have a catch up on what you said about Bitcoin, and then go further down the rabbit hole with him. But as you said, others may just be, if they haven't elected to be as part of this, part of the lecture, just, it's another one. And maybe just see him as the the kooky guy, because you've got the 7 other lecturers on the other side that are all saying exactly the same, and you've got this one oddity.
Yeah, I had one motivation when I went to lecturers. It was only, is this on the exam? I need to pass the bollocks exam at the end of this course. So which of the 10 questions you're going to freaking ask? And is this one of them?
Yeah.
And if you've gone off on a tangent and you're talking about Bitcoin, I'm like, all right, deleting that from my brain. Like, what's going to be on the exam? And if his lecture isn't on the exam at all, I hate to say, I'm probably not even going.
Yeah.
And that's just me going into my brain at 19, 20. I was there to get this dumbass certificate and then chase girls and have a good time. And
I do wonder as well, and how he will actually write a paper or kind of test the students in a way, because Bitcoin moves so fast and the syllabus moves so quick. I'm already looking and waiting for layered money too. This needs to come out. I appreciate he's translated the book into multiple languages, but there is more to be said, because again, we are so early into the space.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Should we move on to another liquidation?
Let's do it.
We teased it before, but this is following on from Celsius's collapse, where they supposedly they still have frozen withdrawals. By the way, Celsius, they are clearly being liquidated through a load of the shit coins pretty much going to zero. It's just meant they're over leveraged. A load of assets they think were backing up various loans, because they were promising crazy percentages, right? You could put these shit coins into some of these places like Babel, Celsius, get 7, 8, 9, 10, 12% interest guaranteed a year. You go, where's this all this money come from? Like, who's loaning money at above 12% in these shit coins to be able to like justify paying out people that are just putting their money there? You go, eventually, whoever is loaning this money at that rate, eventually they're going to go bust because they're blatantly trading it or doing something crazy. So they're going to default on their loans, and once they default, it all comes crashing down, and that's what we're seeing, right? So Babel was another one, but I think it was Chinese, wasn't it? Can't quite see in the Hong Kong. They're Hong Kong, yeah. So they're over on the Asian side, which is why I'd never heard of them, but they still have like 3 billion, so much smaller, like a tenth of what Celsius was. I think Celsius is the biggest of these kind of yield companies. Like, there was a whole thing on kind of Bitcoin Twitter for the last couple of years about yield, like how much yield are you getting from your Bitcoin? You go, well, technically none, other than price appreciation, because I don't get more Bitcoin just for holding it in my wallet. But they're going, you can get more Bitcoin on top of the price appreciation by putting it into Celsius and Babel and growing your sats by 7%, and then also growing the value of your Bitcoin in fiat. That's going to grow by 200% on average anyway. But you're also going to be getting 7 or 8% more Bitcoin as well. Very, very tempting, but just looked too good to be true. I just went, no way does that last. No way does it last. It's going to come down. True enough, it was good for about 2 years, and now it's all just exploded. There's another company in Asia. They've gone bust. They don't admit it yet. None of them have admitted they're bust. None of them admitted they're insolvent, but they've frozen withdrawals. So when someone says you can't have your money, there's a reason for that, right? Probably means they don't have your money. It's like I don't know if you've ever seen the famous clip of the guy on BitConnect, and he's in his car, he's got his phone at him, pointing at him, and he's like, I'm not saying you've lost your money, but you have lost your money. But it's like that, dude, you've lost your money. Like, you can try and talk around it, all kind of ends up like you can pretend these guys are insured, maybe you get some money. Maybe you will, right? Eventually, the liquidators will come into these companies. They'll find out how much money they've got. But the founders at the moment will be taking all the money out the back door. They will be making sure they're all done, just as the governments do and the banks did. So by the time any liquidators get near this, there'll be probably a couple of billion left out of a 38 billion debt book. So you're going to get 5-10% of whatever Bitcoin you had in there back. And yeah, you risked all that money. You risked 100% of that Bitcoin for a 7% gain. And instead of getting 7%, well, you probably did get your 7%.
Oh, sounds like a good get. Sounds like a good deal.
Risk 7% to lose 100. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're still taking money now.
Weirdly, I think they actually were. So their CEO of Celsius, anyway, he got in a lot of shit for shilling some random coin or trying to get someone to put more money in to make a loan. And that was, I think, actually, to be fair to him, I think it was about 2 hours before this frozen withdrawals came in. But they went public with it, going, he was asking for a lot of money from me to try and like back some loan or something. And it just shows that like he would have taken that money and then 2 hours later frozen it. So I don't think, now that withdrawals are frozen, I don't think you can deposit either. And you'd be fucking nuts to anyway. So
I was going to say, who would throw more money into this knowing that they're not going to be getting it out? I mean, that's a different type of laundering altogether, right? It's just stupid.
We've talked about this, you know, so many times since we started this, around leverage, well, trying to get quick gains off your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And it kind of falls into the same category. I suppose in the order you've got using like something like this, try and build interest on a DeFi against, and you've got leaving it on an exchange. And then you've actually got taking your own self-custody. So it's kind of like those levels of risk. Is it worth like 7-8%? I remember as a Bitcoiner, I can't remember which one. I can't remember if it was Kobe or that guy who seems to be relatively famous in the space, who had a bar, and I think you hate him, Mr. All Then. Can't remember what his bloody name is now. But I think one of they were talking about, oh yeah, getting a 7% return. It's just like, you know, there's got to be risk behind that. And we've just seen them all fall apart in the last month or two.
Yep. And all we can take from it is we were all called toxic when we were warning people from service like this. We're like, Bitcoins are so toxic. This is just normal. It's just finance. It's like, how do you reckon the finance market happened when the interest rates were too high and everyone was making too much money? It all fucking imploded, didn't it? Crypto's going to do exactly the same thing, just even faster, because they're not even got any regulation, and the interest rates are even high. Like some of the interest rates on some of the shit coins are like 200% a year or something dumb. And you go, this is impossible. Like clearly they're either inflating the number of coins or they're loaning it out to people that are absolutely nuts. This is a house of cards. And yet again, Bitcoiners end up being right. And all we have to just hold our hands up and go, sorry for not being even more toxic, because 38 billion ended up in Celsius. And anyway, it's weird, but I almost feel like slightly responsible for it, because we didn't call it out for how shit it was even louder than we did, because a lot of people lost a lot of money, and it's sad, and it does hurt Bitcoin. Like a lot of people see this stuff, and they'll talk about, oh, this was a Bitcoin kind of exchange, and it wasn't really. I doubt they had much Bitcoin in there really. I bet most of what their collateral was shitcoin, and because that's why they went bust, because that shitcoin went down by 90% and I think their biggest holding went down 99.99%, whereas Bitcoin's down like, you know, was it like around 70? They'd have been all right with a 70% downturn probably, but when something goes down 99.9 and that was 30% of your holdings, you're done. That's it. Game over. And
it's a shame.
Yeah. But this is life. I think in reality, this is just
silly
like,
games.
Exactly. Well, I think unfortunately, this is just the evolution of Bitcoin. Like we just need all these people that called us toxic and called us stupid for saying these things were a scam, and we're missing out on 7% gains per year of more Bitcoin. You just almost needed to let them lose all this money, didn't we? It's almost, they couldn't be told. They just had to experience it and get wrecked. And I was talking to actually a guy on Reddit when he lost all his money in the Celsius thing. And he claimed he couldn't have a hardware wallet. He was like, my situation means I just couldn't have one. I went, what do you mean? He's like, I can't tell you my situation, but it's not normal. I think he was kind of going, I live in shared housing or some type of stuff. And I do, there's a million ways you could still have a hardware wallet. You can still get your words. You could memorize them in a whole variety of ways. You could put them in a book, And it was just weird because you just go, but take accountability for it. Really, like I
So
don't.
are you saying, sorry, that he needed to therefore leave it on the exchange?
That was his excuse. Yeah, he went, I had to leave it on an exchange somewhere, so I might as well leave it in somewhere where it's collecting yield as well. Because he claimed he could not take custody of it. It was too dangerous or something. And I just went, well, you've paid the ultimate price now, haven't you? Because the danger of taking custody of it, whatever risk there was, you can manage that risk because you know who's around you. You could have it delivered somewhere else. Like you could have figured it out and done that. Instead, you left it in a place and you lost 100% of it anyway.
Yeah, hello. The safe doesn't need to be in your house. You could be somewhere else.
It doesn't need to even be a safe, right? I was like talking him through it. I was like,
it could even be on his mobile.
Oh God, don't do that. No.
Yeah, but it's bloody better than like putting it on something like
the
Celsius.
Bitcoin. Yeah, the Bitcoin could be on his phone. Yeah. Yeah, not the words or the keys.
Yeah. Well, again, it just goes to show. But I think what I've heard in terms of like this whole scenario is that still people are quite lazy. They're looking at these other exchanges, and it's naturally, like we've spoken about with war. It doesn't matter. It hasn't happened to me. The exchange that I've selected still works, still up and running, still secure.
Until it isn't.
I'm all right. Until it isn't. Exactly. Until it isn't.
Like, and the problem is these things don't crash slowly either. It's just literally one day, everything is fine. The CEO is out there and asking for hundreds of millions to back some loan that he's got. The next day, he's pausing withdrawals and it's over. And the next thing you ever see of your Bitcoin will be in 10 years' time, and you might get 5 cents on the dollar if you're lucky in 10 years.
We should also as well say, because it happened with GameStop, that the what are they called, like the companies where you would just normal trading companies stop you from trading as well. So it's not just exchanges that don't allow you to take the money out. It happens with a normal trading exchange. So, but in this scenario, you can actually take custody of your money, and you don't have to be, subject to their conditions.
Yeah, that's why it's super unique, as like, even better than a gold 2.0, because if you have millions and millions of pounds worth of Bitcoin, any normal Joe can take custody of that without a huge expense. You can have some hardware wallets, a couple of safes, and you're good to go. Good luck securing a couple of £1 million worth of gold. You need a whole room dedicated to it and probably an armed guy. But with Bitcoin, you can transport it all over the globe, and it literally is a totally unique asset, which is why this guy was going, I can't do it. I'm like, people in Afghanistan, in Venezuela, they're running in war zones. People in Ukraine, they have Bitcoin, and they're fleeing across borders with that Bitcoin. And it's if they can do it, anyone can do it. It's just, I think in reality, you need to get it. And I think in reality, this guy didn't really get it, and he thought he was being smarter by putting it on Celsius and earning 7%. And I think he knew the risk, but he didn't think the risk was going to happen. And then the day comes, the risk comes true, and you lose all your money. And then suddenly now you're just crying about, oh no, that's not fair. My situation is different. I can't have a hardware wallet. And you go, dude, you're not going to improve and get better as a Bitcoiner without owning that mistake. Own it, start stacking sats again. And this time, take fucking custody of it.
It's hard to start again, isn't it? Because you've got to get over the humility and the financial. So, just be destined to.
So in that conversation with you, he wasn't admitting what he'd done.
Correct.
That he was in the wrong.
Yeah.
So he's got to admit that first of all, admit what he's done wrong, and actually start stacking it properly. He was looking for the quick gains, like a shit coiner, and pretty much he was. That was his shit coin beginnings.
Yeah, the good thing is the price is down, so you can probably buy it for cheaper. You just won't have as much probably to start with, but he needs to hope for a long, harsh winter. And if we get that, he might well be to acquire that Bitcoin back for less than maybe even he paid the first time. But he's gonna have to earn the fiat first to convert it, because that original Bitcoin went up in flames when Celsius went down. and there was tens of thousands of Bitcoiners all over Twitter telling him it would happen. So
Yeah.
it's hard to have so much sympathy now when it happens. You're like, fucking hell, we couldn't have been much louder. Like we told all of you. When people got done in Mt. Gox like 1.0, that was pretty much the only exchange, and taking custody was really fucking difficult. Like you had to be pretty much a developer to know how to handle your private keys. Like, there was no hardware wallets, there was no backup seed phrases. It was all very, very tough. And so pretty much anyone that wasn't a developer got wiped out in Mt. Gox. So that one is like, but now we've learned from that mistake, right? That's why there's many exchanges now. Hardware wallets became a thing, seed words became a thing. And so all the tools are there now. There's no excuse.
You say this, right? But a lot of people, if you said the name Mt. Gox, wouldn't have a clue, because I've said it to a number of people about, make sure you don't leave your money on your Bitcoin on the exchange or whatever on the exchange. And you mentioned Mt. Gox, and it's just like, what do you mean?
Yeah, it's nearly 10 years ago now, 2013.
Yeah, exactly, 2013. But again, it goes back to the education of what we've always talk about here. Instead of watching, I don't know, whatever your favorite episode on Netflix, you've got Banking on Bitcoin on Netflix. If you're gonna put your money into something and you're not just thinking about the gains, you'll see the drama unfold in front of your eyes, and it will shit you up to make sure that you decide, actually, I wouldn't be so stupid enough to do that. So I don't even leave the free lessons Bitcoin on the exchange.
Look at you with your free lessons.
You're on the sanctions list.
Yeah.
For being a fucking Nazi. I don't know how the hell I'm still on the free lessons list.
Yeah.
If you guys are Nazis, then I'm definitely a Nazi. So
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, cool. Should we move on to a story from last week that we're redoing again?
Yeah, go for it.
Where do you guys get to actually last week? Did you just skip it, or did you mention
just
it?
Skipped it? We didn't even. Yeah, I didn't even put it on the agenda.
Okay, fair enough.
That's how we skipped it.
Yeah.
I like how you asked us a question. I would have expected you to have a listen.
No, unfortunately, I did not listen to last week's.
I mean, when we're in charge, it is misinformation heaven. I'm sure viewer ratings are down, and everybody's doing whatever when we're in charge. So yeah.
Nah, the choice, there's not a lot to this, because I think last week we had two things from Jack. There was one around, he was doing a partnership with Jay-Z, wasn't he? So you talked about that one, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was cool.
And that one looked good. That was all Bitcoin based, seemed to be funding different industry and getting Jay-Z involved, all looked positive. But then right alongside that, he then releases this other thing where he's releasing Web 5.0, which is kind of crazy, because Web 1.0 was like the first version of the internet, right? Just pretty much HTML on a page, and it was just information. You couldn't really do anything on websites other than play basic games and do whatever. We had Web 2.0, where all the security kind of came on. Now you can do online banking, all the social media. The internet pretty much became everyone's life in Web 2.0. And then Web 3.0 was pitched by the DeFi retards that all this kind of like shitcoin land was going to suddenly decentralize everything, and we're going to build everything in Web 2.0 but on shitcoins, and it's going to be called Web 3.0. So that obviously never happened. That's gone up in smoke. It's dead. And then Jack now has said he's releasing Web 5.0, and the reason why he skipped 4 is because it's 2 plus 3 equals 5. I'm not sure he knows how version numbers work. They tend to just go up in 1, not adding the last 2 together. Like, it's just
nice.
Like, what are we going to do next? Like, is it Web, like, what would it be? It'd be Web 8 next then. Is it 5 plus 3? Like, what are we doing here, Jack? And so he's obviously like done a load of things. And this whole article, and there's an article linked which gives quite a lot of detail as to what he's talking about. And also we found an actual PDF from his company talking about Web 5, this decentralized web platform, and it pretty much talks through his whole business case and use case for how he thinks this is going to work. And it's very centralized around identity, a lot of what he's talking about, because it is one of the key things that needs to get solved. If you can genuinely just move from game to banking to social, all in and out seamlessly, you do need to know who is moving from what thing and be able to share different attributes of different platform, blah, 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 blah. It gave me PTSD because in 2016, I tried to do exactly this because I was kind of in my shitcoin mode thinking, oh, Bitcoin's great, but blockchain's better. And because we can do decentralization and we can do all this stuff with identity, we can link it all together, use all these decentralized platforms like Ethereum to do all this stuff. And then I realized I was totally barking at the wrong tree, and a load of what I was talking about was nonsense. And actually, it isn't blockchain, it's Bitcoin that's the real thing. And if anything, it's just a little bit sad to see Jack Dorsey kind of pitching something like this, because I think his heart's in the right place. I think he does want decentralized everything. I'd like to see a decentralized Twitter if you can get one of them out. But I think saying Web 5.0, it gives me shudders, because I just imagine to get a lot of these platforms funded, they're all going to have tokens. It's just going to be DeFi, shitcoin land times a million. And I don't see anything good ending there. I wish Jack would concentrate on getting a decent hardware wallet out, a decentralized exchange, stuff that is just Bitcoin centric, not this Web 5.0. I don't even know what it means. It doesn't really mean anything. And it's just a bit of a shame.
So kind of question around that one. Do you still think that you don't talk nonsense?
I definitely still talk a lot of nonsense, but not about decentralized identity. I don't talk about that anymore.
I think with what he's talking about, it's like great, but I think there's, it's a future vision, isn't it? It's where we get to, and the point where there's a Twitter equivalent. So there was the one which that comedian was setting up. I don't know what's happened. What was it called? It was the thing from the Matrix.
Zion.
Yeah. So there's that as an example. Then I suppose the decentralized setup of it, like a bank, would be, your ledger, wouldn't it? That's fundamentally what it is. So I think he's kind of thinking about it, but I kind of think there's a lot more important things to do first.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like I just said, what is one of the big reasons why people aren't Bitcoiners right now? I still think, you guys kind of called it out right at the beginning of this podcast. It is hardware wallets and self-custody. And Jack was looking at that. I was excited to see the iPhone version of a Ledger or a Trezor. I was excited to see that. I really wish he was spending hundreds of millions on getting some type of mobile app that is somehow safe, or some type of little slick device that was super easy to use and was $10 or something. That is what I was hoping Jack was working on. Because just like the conversation I had with whoever it was who lost all his money in Celsius, we need to get rid of that excuse. It needs to just be, no one says that excuse for why they can't get on Facebook, because everyone's like, well, you can get on Facebook because you can get on Facebook, right? It's just easy. And that should be the same thing for going, why don't you take custody of your Bitcoin? Everyone can do it. It's easy. Just click this button. And we need that for Bitcoin, really. And if Jack just concentrated on that one problem, he would be a legend forever. And
also it's got lots of gains because it appeals to the masses as well.
Yeah. I think in a way it's not big enough for him. I think he wants everything. He wants the entire web and to re-engineer and it's like, Jack, it's not how it works. It's just no. Satoshi was a genius, and he just reinvented money, and it's incredible that it worked this long and continues to. Imagine trying to invent everything, and getting it right and on some type of stable decentralized platform that didn't need lots of changes. Because as we know, the problem with a decentralized platform is you can't change it regularly because it's decentralized, which is why Bitcoin is so slow at changing, and shitcoins are super fast to change because there's two guys controlling a shitcoin. There's 10,000 nodes plus controlling Bitcoin, which means our change is very, very slow, very, very deliberate, and we don't break the core protocol. If you try and launch that for the entire Web 5.0, You got to get it right first time.
Of course,
It's
the
not-
consensus
not gonna
definitely
happen.
needs to be. It's not.
It's impossible. You can't have a version 1.0 of the fucking internet and never change it. Like, no. Well, actually, to be fair, actually, Tim Berners-Lee kind of did do that, which is why we're still using it, and it's still on the core kind of ISP and HTML network he built. We're still on it.
Yeah.
And people have tried to change it, and it's like, no one will use the new version because the existing version has everything built on top of it. But for Web 5.0, I'm like, you honestly going to be like the new Tim Berners-Lee? Hey, maybe I'm proven wrong. Maybe he goes does it. But I'm skeptical at the moment because I've heard Web 3.0. I'm already like, that's a red flag. And then the second he goes Web 5.0, I'm like, fuck off. And then at least just say you're going to do Web 3.0 properly and not like shitcoin land. Once you go two versions off.
Web 3.0, well, whatever it's going to be, hasn't even saw the real light of day. So yeah, we've got a long way to go. Let's leave that for sure. One of the things I did see whilst doing research as well is that Mark Zuckerberg is going to be launching an avatar kind of web space where you can buy your avatar as well. So I don't know if he's going to be using Bitcoin to be able to buy your avatar in the metaverse. Naturally, you would hope so, but that's, iterative. He's not trying to do too much, but slowly but surely. You can't just go from one all the way over to there.
If Mark Zuckerberg thinks anyone trusts him enough to fucking use his little metaverse, he's fucking been drinking.
Well, I think unfortunately people will, because they love Facebook and Meta so much.
Yeah, I've got a feeling. I just don't think, even if like some type of VR world takes off, whatever Facebook do, I just don't think anyone will use it. I think someone will just rip it off, and because it's just gonna be like so moderated, so regulated, and everyone's just gonna want to swear and do silly things, and everyone will get banned in that one. So they'll just pop up a different one, and everyone will have guns in that. They're ready to swear and just be more fun. Like, it's not even a new idea anyway. Like Second Life.
That's just your fantasy land, isn't it? Like your own Westworld.
Exactly.
I don't know if it was their one or another one where there's been women complain they were touched in the VR world.
Did you actually see the video of that? It was hilarious.
No.
There's a little video, and there's this like female journalist walking around, and I think like she walks into the toilets of somewhere, and I think the two guys walk in. They like both jump up and down, one behind her, one up in front of her, kind of jump up and down, kind of bumping her, and then just like walk off laughing. And she's like, "I was raped in the metaverse." And you go, "Oh my god!" It's like, come on, like this is welcome to computer games. Like, have you not been teabagged yet? When you've been shot in the head 4 times, I have, and I've also teabagged people. That's what we do in computer games. Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's and she was like, "I was raped." It's like, I was like, pretty sure you can't rape people in like this metaverse thing. Like, they didn't have any of that. They literally jumped up and down beside her, like bumping her character a little bit, and then laughed. And that I was raped. I think she said I was sexually assaulted. So I'll fuck off.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I just don't think any of them. And the problem is, because all these articles get traction, like they're never going to get going with it either. Because they're going to have to now go, you can't get within 2 feet of someone, or like it's just, and eventually it's going to be, are we even in like some type of social land, or are we just in a game with another NPCs walking around?
Yeah.
Because at least you can't sexually assault an NPC.
I can.
Well, I suppose we all
try. You would try, wouldn't you? The only guy that would try.
We all did it in Grand Theft Auto, right? Where
naturally.
you pick up the streetwalker and then kill her for a cash. But anyway, I think we're getting a bit off topic here.
Too much insight into our world. We'll keep that for offline when we meet up. So Dr. Evil 10%, second to last story was one of yours. A VC firm is close to failing after they have 18 billion under management. You want to take us through that?
Yeah, this is quite a large thread about Three Arrows Capital. So
yeah,
someone called the DeFi Edge saying that they're becoming insolvent. So it's a bit of a weird one. So there's various bits talking about how the company is a little bit of a hit piece, but I thought it was interesting because talking about Celsius and Babel or Babel, whatever it's called, we've got another company connected to the crypto universe who are look like they're going to go under, and it will end up hitting a number of cryptocurrencies and potentially causing Bitcoin to take a bit of a hit depending on how much they've got. So they've got, 18 billion under management. One of their notable buys was they bought $559 million of Terra Luna, which is now worth $670.
Correct.
And one of their founders.
This is why we say have fun staying poor. All right. How to turn $500 million into a fucking weekend away at Haven.
One of their founders seems to be a bit influential and has a bit of an audience on Twitter of crypto people, and started fudding Ethereum. I managed to get the price down, but then went and bought a load of Ethereum. So they're a bit of a scummy company, as you've started to probably already realise, and they've started getting margin called, and they're not letting people withdraw their crypto or money. So it's a similar situation to Celsius and Babel, and that they're going. It's just how long, and they do seem like a bigger version. So it's potentially, it's going to be another sink, and it may have an impact on Bitcoin.
I mean, again, you're hearing the same themes, aren't we? Of, margin calls, not being able to pull your money out, not being able to take sovereignty off it. They're doing or making shit decisions time and time again, but people still fall for it. What's going on?
The problem is the guy that runs it he's called Hasu, and he had a massive reputation. He's been made a lot of money in every bull cycle trading, and then I think it was in this last cycle he opened up this 3 Arrows Capital and allowed other people to give him money and then trade it, and obviously for quite high fees, and built the wealth that he had under management to 18 billion, and he's pretty much guaranteed to have a couple of billion at least of that of his own money, probably in the fund and then also outside of it. So he's built up a really good reputation for going, I'm the guy that knows how to ride these markets, find the shit coins, the diamonds in the rough, ride them up, sell them at the right times, get in the next cycle, ride it up. So a lot of people trusted him, and I think that's fundamentally how he got so much money, because these guys, they know what they're doing until they don't. It's like the same with the exchanges. Exchanges are all safe to keep your Bitcoin there until they're not. It's all, and he's the classic trader guy. So he's probably one of the. This is the good thing about this cycle, because it's broken so many of the models that were historically true. The traders that kind of figured out those models in the earlier cycles, and it worked 2 or 3 times. This cycle's broken all the models. The price has gone lower, faster, didn't go up as high, came down faster, had 2 peaks, not 1. All these things are all different this cycle, all different to the last one. So even this guy, who had almost infinite money, he's got wrecked. His trading hasn't worked. He's not only is the market down in shitcoin land like 90%, I would imagine he's down even harder, because he's tried to make back losses and it's compounded the losses to the point where he's now just got no money left, and he's having to pretty much go, I don't know what to do. I've kind of, my fund is now insolvent, and the problem is a lot of these funds, which is why I think these guys are going, this is bad for Bitcoin, is I would imagine by the one asset he probably has traded the least will be Bitcoin, because that's the kind of like the blue chip. It's the stable one that you just kind of leave. and it's the shit coins you're coming in and out of because you know they're going to zero. You just got to get in at the right time and get out at the right time. He's probably still got a shit ton of Bitcoin on his books. And if he gets pressured to then go, look, you just need to return your money, however much you have. If you owe 18 billion and you've only got 3 left, you have to return the 3, and he'll have to liquidate the Bitcoin. So that'll be another shit ton of Bitcoin hitting the market where we're already down at a low price. But the thing is, this is the pain we have to go through, right? Is this? It is what it is.
Yeah, and another one is he's got a large client. Someone had said, I can't remember what the name was in the thread, of $1 million plus. Maybe won't even pick up the phone to them.
Yeah, that's because the thing is that if you're managing 18 billion, someone having $1 million in your fund, that is literally nothing.
Yeah, but it's not him, it's the whole company. They just won't pick up the phone.
Oh. Yeah, he's probably been asking for his money back and they're fed up of saying no. But yeah, that's pretty bad, right? That pretty much is, well, that's their version of pausing or freezing withdrawals, because they don't have a website, they have phone calls, and it's a hedge fund where you move in money manually and all that type of stuff. So yeah, when they stop picking up the fund, that basically means we know what you're going to be ringing for. You're ringing to take your money out, and we don't have any money, so let's just pull out the phones and not let customer service blunder through some bad explanation as to why they can't return the money right now. We don't trust our caller operators to get out of these calls properly, so out comes the plug. Just don't answer them.
You could do a role play, couldn't you, of like you being the customer and me being the fund manager, and ultimately the answer is no matter what you say, you're not getting your money back.
You haven't lost your money, but you've kind of lost your money.
Listen up. You didn't lose your money. Now, you have your... Technically, you kind of lost your money.
Yeah. It's a really bad line. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to hang up the call. You've offended me by not calling me by my proper pronouns.
I'm like a positive vibes only kind of guy, and you're kind of bringing in negative vibes right now. So I'm going to hang up this call.
This day is work day, and the kind of aura that you're bringing along to this call, it's just not conducive to where I'm trying to be at right now. I'm sorry. May Jesus be with you. Have a nice day.
My thoughts and prayers are with you, but not my money.
Cool.
Oh man, talking about people that are salty that have lost money that they clearly deserve to have lost. Our last story is a load of salty Dogecoin buyers that are somehow suing Elon Musk for more than his net worth is. When I saw this story, I googled his net worth, and Google roughly came up with 200 billion, and they're suing him for 258 billion, which kind of confusing. All around,
it was never even around that price, so it's basically just to kill him off, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a classic lawsuit where you just ask for ridiculous money, and if you get 1 billion, then you're ecstatic, right? It's a classic American.
They might get some flumps.
Some what? Some flumps?
Yeah, they're not going to get fuck all.
Oh, right.
Sweets, like the marshmallow thing. You might be like, here's a packet of flumps, share it amongst you all, and they'll be happy. It's just a bit of a fucking ridiculous.
We're losing you. Dropped to 10%. Signal's too bad. You still there, Sneverlook?
Yeah, I'm still here. Still here. Yeah, I was going to give him a chance to talk. I mean, ultimately, we have had this whole pod, and he's not been able to have a little bit of a rant about inflation. So we may get to the end of pod 59 without this. So yeah, let's keep going.
It's a sad day.
Oh, it's a sad day. He's there.
You mentioned the fucking. It's like
I
saying
triggered him.
it's like saying Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. Just say the word inflation 3 times and just 10% appears.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was in my office today. Someone brought up something about gas prices and petrol. I had a massive rant.
Of course you did.
They knew.
Yeah,
We've created a monster.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just like a classic story where I think the person actually writing the article thinks like maybe this lawsuit has a chance. Like it clearly doesn't, because Elon, as stupid as he was around shilling this Dogecoin thing, he actually never told anyone to buy it. He was very clever to not ever say those words specifically. He never went, this is financial advice. It never was. He was just mentioning Doge, posting Doge memes occasionally. If you're dumb enough to think that he actually thought, because the thing is, whenever he was questioned, like, do you own sizable amounts of Doge? He always went, no, I own some, but the only sizable investment I have in this space is Bitcoin. And everything else that I have no other investments. Everything else I own is in Tesla and SpaceX. He was very clear with that. So it's always never listen to what memes someone posts, listen to what they do with their money. And Elon, if you listen to him properly, the only investment he's done outside of betting on himself in Tesla and SpaceX was in Bitcoin. It's the only thing he's ever invested in, other than
you don't think he's got some dink dong?
I don't think he does, no.
Oh shit.
And yeah, now it says 92% down from like its all-time high. They're all super salty. And they need to be glad it's only 92% down, because it's got another 8% to go. And I get out before that final 8 goes, and try and buy some sats of it. But
it was only ever meant to be a meme coin, so it's just amazing that people actually started trying to back it and make money out of it. It inflates the number of transactions every day, doesn't it?
Yeah. The whole thing about Doge is literally a meme. Like, it's just the inflation rate is worse than fiat. Like, it's more centralized than fiat. It's literally just a joke. And I think sadly Elon did try and fix it, and it's like, you can't fix something like that. It either is decentralized at launch and has a fair like issue of supply, or 2 people already own 99% of the supply, and they're just sharing out the final 1% between all the idiots coming in now. But no,
the guy who invented it sold all his Doge so he could buy some like a Honda Accord.
Yeah. and stupidly like sold it to like another 5 guys, and they all held on.
Well, hopefully this is the end. I would like to see as well, maybe we can we'll put it in our notes and we'll pull it up for next week. What percentage of shitcoins are now dead? So let's say there was roughly 10,000, have we killed off 20% or so, and they've all gone to zero? So effectively, we know in years to come, there will only be one all supreme coin. Yeah, you've got all these other projects, which are exactly that, just projects, and we have to go through this. But along the way, they'll die. And we've said it's like the ship, isn't it? And the barnacles will fall off the ship. And that ship, mothership, is Bitcoin.
Yeah. And once we go through into the stratosphere, the final couple of barnacles, they don't make it through the ozone layer. They don't make it. They fall off. They burn off. And there'll only be one true coin at the end. But yeah.
I was going to say, it's Dink Dunk in the capsule.
It's not in the capsule, but what will be is the 4 Bs. And naturally, I'll bring the show to a close by saying that this episode 59 was brought to you by Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, Mr. All In, aka the $1 trillion man, because he will get there, myself, Sir Never Look, aka the Excellence of Execution, and she's still not here, Mrs. No Show, still never to be seen again.